We pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for the blessings that we have. Thank you for the blessings in our life. And thank you that you are guiding us closer to you. Lord, all of this we ask, offer, and pray in your name. And all God's people said, Amen. You may be seated. So it is Thanksgiving Eve. Basically, I'm going to always say Thanksgiving because it's close enough. And in order to celebrate this, I do something every year that I hope you don't mind if I do again this year, because I have to get them done. And I have to fill out thank you cards. So, Alex, would you happen to be able to play some thank you card music?
I think I can come up with something.
All right. So let me get my pen ready here. Alex, what you got for me? Oh, I like that. Okay, you ready? All right, here we go. Thank you, snow on Halloween, so I can keep my candy and eat it in my office and my house. It was wonderful. Did you do the same thing? I had 2 trick-or-treaters. Everybody else, I closed the door and turned off the lights so they couldn't have my candy. Thank you, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, for making me feel dumb and smart in a matter of 1 hour. You ever watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune? No, trust me, you don't want to. All right. You have it? You should do these for me. Amen. All right, let's go on. All right. Thank you, Pastor Carl, for your artistic ability. That way, when I draw my stick figures, they look like a 3-year-old did it. Thanks, by the way. I did need another blow to my ego. Okay. Thank you, pumpkin pie, for basically being baby food for adults. How many like pumpkin pie? How many ever thought of it as baby food for adults? Works for me. Thank you, Susan, Sharon, Jennifer, Jenny, Gloria, Karen, and Jackie, and all the other staff members for proofreading my notes, emails, and letters. With my grammar, it is it's needed. Ask them, they know. Right, Sharon? She didn't want to answer, therefore she knows. All right. Thank you for letting me write my thank you cards tonight. Tonight we are talking about Thanksgiving. And we're talking about being thankful. And so what I want to ask you is a couple of questions tonight that I want for you to ponder. And the first question is, do you say thank you? Do you say thank you? Do you, when you get something, do you say thank you? Or do you do it like I did as a kid, and when you get a gift, they give it to you and your parents would look at you and what would they say? What do you say? And I'd be like, thank you. Right? Which kind of thank you do you use? Maybe a better question is, how many times or how often do you say thank you to God for the blessings you have? How many times do you sit back and think about everything that He has given you? How often do you just sit still and listen and know the blessings that are there? This is what Thanksgiving's all about. It started way back with the Pilgrims, way back in whatever year, where they brought in food to celebrate being thankful together. That's what we celebrate, right? And I think sometimes we don't think and lose track of that. In fact, I don't know if your family is like mine, but But I think sometimes even a better question in Thanksgiving isn't, are you thankful? I think the better question is, are you negative? Tonight, what I want to do before we go into all of these questions is after each section, I want to ask you the question, or I want to say, give thanks to the Lord for he is good. And I want you to repeat, his love endures forever. You think you guys can do that? All right, so let's try it. Give thanks to the Lord for he is good.
His love endures forever.
That's not good enough. We are thankful people for God's love. We are happy people because of Jesus. We are loved by God because he's here. I want to hear excitement. I want to hear passion. I want to hear love. So give thanks to the Lord for he is good.
His love endures forever.
There you go. All right. But not only are we sometimes forgetting to be thankful, sometimes we're negative, right? I've seen people who don't see the positive. You know those people, the ones who aren't happy unless they're unhappy, right? They don't see the silver lining because of the dark cloud. You're going to probably see this at Thanksgiving dinner or lunch, whenever you have it. I know in my extended family, I've had that opportunity. It was several years ago, and I was having lunch at my parents' house. And it was the first year that I was allowed to sit at the big boy table, the adult table, right? You know what I mean, right? All you kids, it's great, let me tell you. And not only did I get to sit at the big boy table, I got to sit at the second head of the table. You know what that is? My father sits at the head of the table. It's his table. And they let me sit at the other side. Whoa. I was excited. And so I grabbed my plate full of turkey and ham and mashed potatoes and stuffing and cranberry sauce and everything else I shouldn't eat. And I put it down in front of me, and I had my Diet Pepsi because that counteracts all the calories. And I sat down and I started eating. And sitting around me was my extended family. And I tried to drum up conversation. How are you guys doing? Happy Thanksgiving. My knee hurts, my back hurts. Oh, everything's horrible. Well, at least we're from St. Louis, so you have to bear with me here. Well, at least the Cardinals made the playoffs this year. Oh yeah, but they have this and that, and they're terrible, and all sports are awful. And then we got into politics, and I stepped back from that one right away. And everything that they said was negative. You ever been in that? And the more I tried to be positive and give them thank yous and tell them that God is in their life, they didn't want to hear it. After about 15 minutes and I hammered my food, I got up and I said, I gotta go do dishes. I put my dishes in the sink and I looked over my shoulder, and sitting on the porch away from everyone was my parents and my wife and my sister out on the porch with the door closed away from all the negativity. But the fact is how often are we negative? And I want you to take just a moment and I want you to think on that. Just a moment of silence and think. Because that negativity speaks more sometimes than our positive nature. So just take a beat and think through that. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good.
His love endures forever.
Yes, it does. And his love does endure forever. That's the part of Thanksgiving that I want to make sure that we all know. It's not about turkey. It's not about the ham. It's not about goofy hats. Right? It's about his love endures forever. Nothing stops it. Nothing ends it. Nothing shuts it off. His love is there no matter what. It is something that we get to be thankful for, happy for, and proud of. It's been there since the beginning, and it'll last long after we're here. It's a love that blesses us with gifts at Christmas. It's a love that blesses us with too much turkey at Thanksgiving. It's a love that blesses us with life eternal in heaven. It's a love so great it sacrificed a child for our life. A child in Jesus, the Son of God. This love from God showed itself in New York City several years ago. This love showed itself through a pastor who had a conversation with a woman. You see, one afternoon, early evening, a woman was standing on the top of one of the skyscrapers in New York City. And she was telling everyone that she was going to jump. She was dressed in a beautiful gown. And as they saw her, people saw her, they called the police and the paramedics and the fire department, and everybody came a-running. And the negotiators talked to her, the police talked to her, everybody did. Finally, out of desperation, one of the police officers called his pastor. Asked him if he'd come down to pray with them for this woman. Pastor, of course, said yes, came down. He prayed with the people that were around there, the police, the fire department, everyone that was there. After a moment or two, he asked if he could go up and talk with her. Reluctant, the police chief said, sure, I don't know what good it's going to do, but you can go ahead and try. So traveling all the way up to the top of the skyscraper, he walked out onto the roof and saw this woman standing on the side. And he starts walking towards her, step by step. The woman turns around and says, stop! Don't come any closer or I'm going to jump. Pastor takes a step back. After a pause and a breath, he looks at her and he says, I'm sorry. She looked at him kind of puzzled and said, what? He said, ma'am, I'm sorry that your grandchildren and your children don't love you. I'm sorry that your family turned its back on you. I'm sorry that nobody loves you. She stopped and looked at him and she says, my grandchildren love me. They call me and they text me almost every day. I can't respond to the text because I don't know how, but they still love me and they tell me that. My family calls me once a week and says, I love you. He says, well, then I'm sorry that you don't have anything. I'm sorry that all your earthly possessions are gone, that you have no money and that you're poor and that you live on the street. I'm sorry that you don't have what you need to survive. This woman in a very expensive dress looks at the pastor and chuckles and says, this gown costs $300. She said, and doing this motion around her, she says, and do I look like I've missed a meal? She says, I have everything that I need. And as she's talking, pastor takes another step and another step, closer and closer to her. Finally, he looks at her and he says, then why are you jumping? She looks at him and says, I don't know. I forgot. And she gets down, and in the arms of this pastor and others surrounding her, she walks down the steps to safety as she shows pictures of her family to the pastor. The love that was shown there, is a love that God has for us times infinity. I want you to take this Thanksgiving and not just be thankful that day, tomorrow, for what you have. I want you to be thankful always. Because God has provided everything that you have. So give thanks for what you have. Pause every day and see what God has blessed you with. Sit back and rejoice, because his love endures forever. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good.
His love endures forever.
And all God's people said, Amen.